Thank you, Reverend. While he was newly elected state representative for the ninth district, ninth Suffolk district, excuse me. Not only is he a state representative, but he's also a medical doctor, and we have state representative, medical doctor John Santiago. Say something to the folks, John.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you all. Tracy, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be on here with Reverend Hammond.
Thank you very much. And like I said, you determine, listeners and viewers, who's the hero and who's royalty. I think they go in both categories. We're going to get right into this discussion. What we're hoping to do today, too, listeners, we want to have a discussion that's a little different. We're very overwhelmed about what's going on with COVID-19 at this point. Hopefully, we want to have a discussion that will really focus on some of the medical aspects, but the political as well as the spiritual as well. So let's just jump right into this. I'm going to throw this first to Reverend Hammond, and feel free to jump in, John, whenever you like. Can the medical community beat this virus? Our mass social distancing, is this going to be a part of our lives for the next 30 days, month, year, 5 years, 10 years? Please talk to us.
Oh, absolutely. Well, those are great questions to consider. And with regard to that first question, can the medical community beat this virus? I would say that there are two answers, yes and no. And yes, the medical community, and especially here in Boston, certainly has the intellectual curiosity so that they are asking the right questions. They are looking at their own experiences, not just in this pandemic, but in previous pandemics and in other diseases that seemed like they were unbeatable. They certainly have the commitment to really beat this disease. And the compassion. My colleagues in medicine absolutely have the compassion as they see so many people losing their lives and the impact that it's having on our communities. So yes, they can. No, they can't do it by themselves. It really takes a concerted effort. Really, all of the people who are on the phone doing the things that we've already learned to do to prevent the disease, but also the importance of having government and the funding, business people, a combined effort on behalf of all of the stakeholders, and we're all stakeholders in this issue.
That's good to hear. What do you think, Representative Santiago or Dr. Santiago?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this virus has touched us more than just in the public health realm, right? And, we can do so much in the emergency room. And, when I work in the ER, and I'll be working a shift tonight, make no mistake, I'm not just treating COVID-19. I'm not just treating a heart attack, a stroke, what have you, a gunshot wound. We're treating society's ills. And to do that and to beat that, we're going to need more than just, medicines and treatments. We're going to need the people's will. And, I'm so honored to be working in government right now and to have a role in that. But it's not just government. It's going to require the business sector. It's going to require the community at large to really do something about this. Because what COVID-19 has shown, it's exposed the disparities that already pre-existed COVID-19, and it's really exacerbated them.
Sure.
So it's going to be all hands-on-deck approach, but make no mistake, we're going to be in this for the long haul.
Yeah, you know what? It's something. I watch the news every day, and one of the things that just I feel it in my soul and in my heart is when I watch our frontline folks, and I think we hear it so much at times we start to take it for granted. Either one of you. How are the providers, the nurses, the doctors, how are you dealing with all this trauma and death that's occurring around you? They must be, folks must be numb dealing with the unpredictability of what they're seeing on a daily basis.
Well, John, you're on the front line.
Well, I guess I'll start with that one. I mean, I think, you bring up some excellent points, Tracy. I mean, this has been very challenging. We physicians and nurses and healthcare staff, we're kind of type A people. We like to look at the analysis, look at the data, and have some sort of idea of where we're going. Mm-hmm. When it comes to COVID-19, this is so new and evolving so fast. It's not just what we see on TV, but even from a medical and a clinical perspective, the treatments and how we go about it. And I just think about my own experience, and I've worked, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the past 9-10 weeks.
Wow.
I'll be going in for a shift tonight. And just in those 2 months, how much has changed with respect to how we treat patients, the medicines we give them, whether we decide to put someone on the ventilator quickly or whether we decide to stave it off. I mean, things have changed, and I'm very proud of the fact that the healthcare community has stepped up, not just in Boston but across the Commonwealth, to scale up resources and capacity to do the best we can to take care of patients. And I'm particularly proud of a place like Boston Medical Center, which I know the Hammonds are very familiar with,
yes,
that stand up for the most vulnerable communities and to treat those, and
Sure.
have done a tremendous job in that. And so it's tough, make no mistake, but these folks, if you're working in the Boston Medical Center emergency department, even before COVID-19, you're a tough person.
Sure.
And we want to be in there, and I would say morale is still high. And I think a lot of us look at this as duty, and that's why we're here to serve.
Sure. And it's something too. When I think about that question, I say to myself, the closest that I at certain points have an opportunity to see this. Folks, I think they relate everything to television at times. They watch shows like Chicago Med and they watch those folks. But no, this is real life now, and these are folks that are dealing with real life issues. I was telling my executive producer that I watched a video on CNN, and I watched these young girls sitting in their living room. Their father told them to turn around and look outside. They turned around, looked outside, and it was their mother that had been gone for 11 weeks working in another city. The girls instantly broke down and started crying. It made me cry because we are at war right now, and these frontline providers are risking their lives on a daily basis. So I just want to say, I think that we all need to do what we should do to support these frontline providers so we don't do anything to push this virus any further than it's gone.
Yeah. And the other consideration are the other frontline providers, of a sense, right? They're not the ones who are in the hospital, but we are certainly aware of the other individuals who are still going to work every day, and they're working in the grocery stores, and they're driving the buses, and just again a number of individuals. And talk to some of them, and they recognize a different kind of risk that they're taking on, and in an ideal world, they wish that they could work from home like so many of them. But they are taking another risk, and so we celebrate them. And I'd say we've also seen the stress that it produces for people, certainly in the hospitals, but after they come home, and the worry that they have for their own families and community members, too. So one of the things that has been impressive to me, I've been talking with my colleagues who are doing chaplaincy work in the hospitals, is a good chunk of their work is really and not just the doctors and nurses, but also supporting the people who are cleaning the hospitals and people who are servicing the food trays. And so there are a lot of people to be prayed for, a lot of champions here, and we celebrate them all, and deep in prayer for them as well.
Thank you, Reverend Hammond. Thank you for making sure that we don't forget anybody, and that we do. I love that word, that we celebrate them. To both of you, just very simply. If you look around the country, we were just having this discussion in the studio. States are opening. All the states are opening, but some cities within those states are not opening. Should we be opening at this point and trying to have some, 25%, 30% normalcy, or should we keep people in their homes until we have a little bit more time to collect a little bit more data for an opportunity for vaccines? What should we do? What do you think we should do?
That's a great question, Tracy. I mean, that is, literally the billion-dollar question. And I think you brought up some of the difficulties in making that decision. Some of the, coordination between cities and states. I mean, just because one place opens up, there isn't necessarily a frontier barrier that restricts people from coming into the other and possibly spreading an infection. But I think about here in Boston, where this past Monday we started the reopening. And I've raised some red flags about it. I think, we have a lot more to do when it comes to testing and when it comes to contact tracing. Because you're exactly right. I mean, we need a vaccine ultimately to get us to a place where we will have herd immunity so we can have some sort of control over the virus. Sure. And in lieu of that, we need to test, and contact trace, but we're not even there yet. And so the concern is that, you begin to open up the economy, and then people are going to go out, the weather's nice, and so many people have not been exposed yet, and you really risk having a second surge. And if you look at other countries across the world, even in countries that have really done a better job at handling the initial insult, they are starting to see some outbreaks. And so it's very concerning. And the fact that what I would argue the biggest hotspots, nursing homes and communities of color, have not been adequately addressed, that raises big red flag for me.
Sure. Reverend Hammond?
Yeah, I absolutely would agree with that. And still, for those individuals who are at greatest risk, our senior citizens, myself included, individuals who have those pre-existing conditions that especially make them vulnerable, certainly individuals with asthma, moderate to severe asthma, any heart disease, or high blood pressure, anybody who's got kidney problems and requires dialysis, people who have any kind of chronic lung disease, people who are obese, anyone with severe obesity greater than with a BMI of greater than 40. Anybody who's in those risk categories, we need you as best you can to still, as best you can, stay in place.
Sure.
And that means that we need the community to really support them. So I am very concerned, given that communities of color have really had a disproportionate. This has had a disproportionate impact. I want us to look not just at what other cities in the state are doing, not even just what all of Boston is doing, but let's look at our neighborhoods and see maybe our guidelines should be should keep us being even more vigilant than perhaps Weston. And so those are other considerations, I think, for those of us who are people of color.
Well, you know what, Reverend Hammond, I think I'm going to need a person of the cloth because my brother, I worry about him quite a bit. He's overweight. When we grew up, he had asthma really bad, smoked cigarettes. He's still working full time. I may need you to give him a call to figure out what we can do with him because I'm so worried about my brother. But I'm hopeful. I hope people are listening and understanding what folks are saying here. This thing is serious. We have to take it serious, and the best method at this point is to stay home. So I will share that number with you after this broadcast, Reverend Hammond.
Sure.
Representative Santiago, I just happened to reach out to the other day, and I said, let me see how he's doing. And I know he's out here. He's fighting this issue, and I started to think about you as a medical doctor. And I was like, wow. I text you, and you told me I can't talk right now because I'm going in to do the shift at a hospital. Right there, and I said, if that's not a story of a hero, I don't know what is. Tell me what it's like juggling working at the State House with the political aspects of this as well as being in the emergency room.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's an honor and a privilege to do both and to have, it's just a real blessing. And, I got into medicine because, I saw and witnessed these health disparities affect communities of color. I'm a Puerto Rican kid. I spent a number of years growing up in Boston and had an uncle who had HIV. And, he was a poor Latino man who couldn't access care in one of the best cities in the country with respect to health care. And, he just lived a stone's throws away from some of the biggest hospitals in the world, and he couldn't get health care. And so that's what inspired me to get involved in medicine. And so why I do medicine is because I think it's a practical skill in order to heal society's, ills. And so, I've been practicing for 5 years, so I'm relatively new in the game. And I obviously have to thank the Hammonds for, the path that they laid as, doctors of color.
Sure.
To, uplift and amplify us. And I'm kind of, paying it back now. But, I ran for office because, you quickly realize what you see in the ER or any kind of in the clinic or in the hospital is a direct reflection of what's happening in the community. Okay. And in order to really address those issues, you need to get involved at the policy level. And so that's why I ran for office. And so it's been challenging for sure. Typically, before the epidemic, I was working every other weekend. And then given the need for more, human resource capital, I decided to work more. And I wanted to be in the thick of it. And look, there were staff, healthcare staff that were getting sick. And, when they take a hit, that's when the healthcare system, it gets really concerning whether being toppled or not. And, there were older doctors, sick, doctors who didn't want to be there. And I felt like I was young, healthy, had the energy. And, I felt like this was the time to act. And I think this is when, we need to step up as leaders and play a role in that. So I've been working, 3 days a week, which is a lot for an ER doctor over the past 9 weeks, and balancing that with my constituency and legislative stuff, which has been, challenging for sure, but I think, worthwhile and very rewarding.
This work that you're doing should definitely boost the profile. I mean, goodness, when I looked at it and when I thought about what you were doing, I said, man, this is very, very special for an individual. And you don't have to be there. You didn't have to go and do what you do, but we greatly appreciate it. Reverend Hammond, I'd like to ask you this question. I've always, when they first started talking about Corona, my thought was, it doesn't seem like it's hitting the black folks. It seems like we may catch a pass on this one, Then all of a sudden, those numbers turned around. So I've heard reports of it being very prevalent in the black community. Mm-hmm. How do we explain this? Why the black community, and why some parts of the black community and not others?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and you're absolutely right. Certainly in Boston, and I'd have to look at the latest information, but in general, we have had. And John, you can maybe help me with this, but as I understand it, we've had about 40% of the cases, and even though the population in Boston is around 22%, I think it is. And we've seen that phenomenon really, and the same for Latinos. I think Latinos are now up to 24%, and their population is around 18%. Again, John, you probably have a better handle on those numbers. But really, around the country, wherever there are major, wherever we are a major part of the population, we've had an excessive part of the this has taken an excessive hit on us. And when you think about it, that's not surprising because again we've understood that the people who were most vulnerable were people, again, not only who are older but who've had these associated illnesses that compromise their ability to fight off infections. And so, and the reasons that we have those excessive pre-existing illnesses are complicated, but it has to do with lack of access in terms of health care,
sure.
With poverty, people not necessarily being able to really take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. We've had food insecurity, so people aren't able to eat well. Just again, a number of different things that and John has alluded to this too. This is not new news and shouldn't have been surprising news. It's very much in keeping with what we've seen in the past.
Sure.
And lots of stories, horror stories, really. Throughout the 400 years, right? Not new news. That we've been here, that we have been on the wrong end of the receiving stick when it comes to health care.
That's right. And I want to say too, just how important exercise and diet is. Mm-hmm. I know for myself, I've really made my mother angry with me because I don't eat like she cooks anymore. I used to love it when I was a kid. A lot of salt, a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
But I don't eat like that anymore. I've changed my diet quite a bit. Matter of fact, our executive producer has some statistics we'd like to share with folks about this COVID-19 and what's going on.
Well, I would like to say that Pastor Hammond did her homework. Yes, so the Asian and Pacific Islanders, about 4%. This is Boston race ethnicity case data from the Boston Public Health Commission. I'd like to also say, I'll put my Angela Davis hat and say, I don't believe in race. I believe that we are all one race, which is the human race. So I like everybody to work on getting rid of that term race. We're all human race. So for ethnicity, Asian Pacific Islanders, 4%. Black African Americans, 38%. The Latinx Hispanic, she was right on point with 24%. Other, 9%. And the white community or Caucasians at about 25%. I could also tell you the death data, which is Black African Americans, 36%. White Caucasian, 44%. Latinx at about 11%.
Rep. Santiago, what do you think about those numbers?
I mean, it's sad, and every death, every single person that has lost someone from this, it's a tragic loss to each individual family. But as the Reverend Doctor stated, I mean, this is no surprise. And I think the virus, independent of race, ethnicity, it doesn't see that, right? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what it does see. It sees poverty. It sees desperation. It sees crowded living conditions. it sees inequality, and that's where it infects and is transmitted. And I think about, we look at the hot spots in the state of Massachusetts, and the gateway cities with high numbers of immigrants, high numbers of people of color. They've been hit extraordinarily hard. You think about Chelsea, Randolph, Brockton, and they all have the same things in common, right? People of color, high immigrant population, people who live in multi-generational housing, people that can't not work, don't have the privilege to stay at home, right?
Sure.
So they have to go out because they're essential workers. And so again, no surprise to us, but that's all the more reason why we, as leaders and as elected folks, need to step out and not only just raise this issue, but really do something about this.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm thinking about now. I'm thinking about our guy, definitely our guy, President Trump here. I listen. I listen and watch. For me, President Trump is very entertaining. But this is no laughing matter when we're talking about life or death with COVID. I had a friend in New York that caught it twice actually. So my question is, I've heard that President Trump has made mention about sending respirators to other countries. Should we be doing that, considering a second wave could come back? And it would seem to me that as much, whether it's testing or whether it's respirators, that every bit of equipment is necessary in this fight. Politically, should we be worrying about other countries? I hate to put it that way because I know that we want to worry about any human life. But at home, what do you think? Should we be sending these things sending respirators away when we need respirators, and that we also need testing to increase as well?
I mean, it's an interesting question, Tracy. I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm kind of, I hate the fact that, we exist in a world full of borders and barriers and fences, and I'd like to think about my brothers and sisters, abroad, and how we're all, of the same human race, as your executive producer said. And, for me, who spent 5 years abroad working too, I mean, a lot of what's going on internationally, speaks to me and interests me. But you bring up a good point, and so I don't think it's a yes or no question. I think it's an issue of priority. You've seen China, when they kind of got a control of what's going on in Wuhan, they sent a number of materials and ventilators to northern Italy when they would get hit the hardest. Mm-hmm. You saw other countries step up and help each other out. Now the question is, are we at a place right now with our ventilator capacity to do that? And what's been really the stain of the administration is that they've been so late to act, right? And so, a month ago, or 6-7 weeks ago, we were in need of ventilator production. There was some lag with that. Mm-hmm. But if you look at, we've been able to withstand the surge here in the United States, and we could have a second one. You're absolutely right. But right now, ventilator capacity is picking up pretty quickly. Okay. And we might have enough to send to other places. But again, it's all later than expected, right? I mean, we should have had this done a month ago, whatever. But so we might have. Actually, I read an article in the Globe just a couple of days ago that talks about that. We're going to have significantly, probably more ventilators than we need, and that we should be sharing the love. I think if we can do it, obviously, if if things are stable here.
Okay. Reverend Hammond, did you want to say something about that?
No, I think that's absolutely correct. I agree with John. What he said.
I like that. We actually have a caller on the line. Caller, could you please say hello, give us your name, and where you're calling from?
Sure. This is Karen calling from Hyde Park. So enjoying the show, and I'm just wondering if you guys are going to venture into the issue of the impact of COVID on mental health in these various communities that were already, traumatized, stressed, overextended, food deserts, etc. If that's going to be part of your conversation.
Let's go down that road right now. What do you guys think? Reverend Hammond?
Sure. Hi, Karen from Hyde Park. It's great to hear your voice. Absolutely. And with regard to the mental health, as someone said to me, as challenging as it is now, that this is really just the tidal wave. The tsunami is coming. Wow. Because as people experience the impact of the economic losses, the reality that we are going to be on various degrees of lockdown for quite some time. The capacity to go back to school in the fall, or to return to what we have known as business as usual. Again, we are already seeing the psychological impact to some extent, but down the road, when it's not clear that the economy is bouncing back, and we have the sense that we're just in this for so long, I think that's when we're going to begin to see the difficulties in terms of mental health. For people of color, we didn't have enough providers going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely won't have enough providers as we try to make our way through. We're going to need to equip a greater range of us, not necessarily people who are able to go back and get their doctorates, and people who are not necessarily like Karen from Hyde Park, going to be social workers trained in this. We're going to have to figure out how to provide that mental health support. Much more teletherapy, absolutely. We've got work to do.
Sure. Rep. Santiago?
I'll just add, I agree 100% with the Reverend Doctor. As Tracy kind of, stated earlier, there's been an increase with respect to the mental health of providers and the trauma that they're experiencing. But, the same can be said absolutely for what's going on at home with the quarantine fatigue. I mean, I can't imagine the parents, worrying about, the economic situation, now having to homeschool their kids. I mean, we're seeing reported numbers of domestic violence and child abuse decrease. What that suggests is that, that the rates are probably going up because people are, you can't report it, right?
That's right.
And so there's some significant issues. And as the Reverend Doctor said, things are going to get worse before they get better. We are still talking about the public health crisis primarily, but, once that kind of gets, more stable, the economic crisis from all this is something that I've, being in the legislature, have been kind of, keeping up with. I mean, billions and billions of dollars are expected to disappear or have disappeared.
Sure.
And how we recover from this and how long it's going to take. I mean, we're talking about numbers that are rivaling the Great Depression. And I was just on a call with the Speaker of the House literally an hour before this, and he talked about, the first couple of weeks of this, and he saw the lines of people waiting for food at the where they hand out food, and he was just like, he thought never in America or never in a place like the Commonwealth that he would see lines like that before.
Yeah.
And so, we are going to be in it for the long haul, and it's important that we realize the importance of, it's not just about one's physical well-being, whether they have a fever, chills, cough, whatever, but it's about whether they're, mentally and fit and psychologically okay, and they have the support services that they need to make it through this pandemic.
Absolutely. And, I want folks to think, too, as Representative Santiago talked about food lines, I have to, and thank you, Karen from Hyde Park. I apologize. Thank you for calling in.
No problem.
I also wanted to mention, too, a couple of weeks ago, I actually helped volunteer at my church. We need you folks to come out and get involved here. This is a real issue in this country, and we need folks that are strong enough physically, mentally, to come out and engage and help some of these individuals that are struggling throughout, whether it's with mental health issues, physical issues, social issues, whatever it might be. Please get involved. Contact the churches, contact the community-based organizations in your area, and figure out how you can engage as well. I want to go back to another question, too, about President Trump before we go into the faith-based issues here around spirituality. I'm curious, how do medical professionals feel when they're doing all of this nuts? I mean, they rolling their sleeves up, trying to save lives. Lives are being lost with this new virus. How do they feel when there's all this talk and chatter? The president didn't do this. The president didn't do that. It's all this political talk rather than talking about what our frontline providers need. Is this political talk that's going on in the news, is it a distraction for our frontline providers?
Well, I mean, it's an insult to injury for sure. I mean, I think for the, I don't want to speak for every, medical professional, but for a whole lot, black, white, Latino, wherever you live across the country. I mean, I think on the whole, we're very data-driven, right? And so we like the facts. And what we see, coming out of the White House administration is not that. When you got a government, a president who's supposed to be the leader of this country, talking about Lysol and talking about all kinds of medications that haven't been, approved, or really disagreeing with his experts that have been there, it's disheartening. But let me just say, I think people, are sometimes worried about getting political when it comes to these life and death issues. But let me just make it clear to everyone that it is time to be political, right? These issues have our ramifications, right?
Okay.
Who we elect at the local level, at the national level, and that's why, in addition to getting involved in the local community, there's never been a more important time to get involved politically at the local level and at the level that's talking about voting. We have an election in September. We have one in November, and supporting candidates that believe in science, that believe in empathy and compassion, doing the right thing.
Sure. So let's shift this discussion a little bit. I'd be remiss if we didn't speak specifically about what's going on in our church community, our religious community, not just churches, but synagogues, mosques, whatever it might be. I'm just curious, Reverend Hammond. There, around the country, there are still churches that are opening, and you hear folks say, religious leaders, I live and I lead by faith. I live by faith as well. And at times I have to make sure that I check what I'm doing with my religious leaders and theologians to make sure I'm not confusing what was said in the Bible and how I'm trying to live my life. What do you think? You're a first lady of a church. First of all, I want to say I really appreciate your patience with me, Reverend Hammond, because I'm usually scared of first ladies of churches. They make me very nervous. I'm very off guard. I don't know what to say. I'm stumbling. This has been a much better conversation with you than I've had with other first ladies, because they don't play. But they don't play at all. They hold that church together and hold that community together. What do you think about when ministers say they lead by faith and they're still having church service on Sunday?
Well, I absolutely believe that we need to lead by faith, and I am not trying to second guess or judge people who feel a calling to continue with church. We certainly have not. We don't. We haven't set a date at all in terms of when we will open church. We lead by faith with wisdom, and absolutely that's what we're doing. So we are deeply bathing our decisions in prayer, reaching out to consult with a number of different people with regard to our decision as far as opening. And I'd say that whenever we open, we're not looking to set a date and then try to scramble and get the church in position to go with that date. We're trying to think through very strategically all the different things that we need to have in place before we open church. So we've got a bunch of questions that we pose to ourselves. Can we get people safely being able to distance and come in and to exit the church, about capacity to do all of the kind of cleaning that needs to happen. We're not supposed to provide child care during the services. We have a fair number of children and young people. How do we think about providing for their worship experiences as well? And I'd say at this point, what we also recognize is, like so many congregations who've been able to develop a virtual platform, our numbers we have far better numbers attending on Sunday or any meetings. For some of our meetings, our boring meetings, where the attendance is up 150%. But so we've developed honestly another campus. I'd say lots of churches have other campuses now. They have strong internet campuses. So those, we have to pay attention to that. But again, in terms of opening the physical space, we need to make sure that it is a safe space.
Sure.
And since most of our congregants are African Americans, we have to think through even more carefully about how we open and who we encourage to come.
Let me just stay with you for 1 second, Reverend Hammond. I know for myself, I'm definitely missing going to church. I need it right now. I miss it. We're in a situation now where folks are trying to make up their own decisions in regards to how they practice. But a lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and they need to work week by week in order to make it. Same thing with churches, I would assume, that they live week to week by tithes and offering. What can we as folks in churches that participate in churches and mosques and synagogues, what can we do to still financially support the church so that way when this thing is all over, we'll know the church will still be there to continue to support us with all the good work that they've done over the years?
Absolutely. Well, I hope that many people have been able to go to electronic means of making those payments, Cash App. We use Cash App, certainly electronic giving to banks. But there's also the old-fashioned way where you can put your little something in an envelope and mail it to the church, and put a check in and mail it to the church. But what I will say is what should not be a reason to open church is to be able to get that money to keep the church open. So that should not be a primary driver with regard to that. That's where faith comes in, is that we trust God to make those provisions. And what we have found, and again, talking with other ministers around the country, is that if we continue to provide that pastoral support electronically, by phone, people in general have given. Now, with regard to this economic shift, we've really got to think seriously about that. And I think just like we know some small businesses are going to close, I worry that some of our congregations they won't be able to survive. Sure.
Rep Santiago, what do you think about that, about our churches that are possibly struggling right now, that have struggled and struggling even worse during this time of COVID?
Well, I think, I think the churches and just about every religious institution has played such an important role in helping us as a people get through crises, right? And this is from the beginning, and this is no different. And they've been put in a very difficult circumstance right now. How are you able to still get to a congregation and worship together, given the fact that so much of church. I mean, when I grew up in a Southern Baptist church for a long time.
Well, you know some real church. You know some church. I grew up down there. When I grew up in Summers, I got shipped down to Hereford, North Carolina. Now that was some church, boy. Oh my goodness.
But so much of it was just like being there, in person and being able to touch and feel and hug and kiss your congregants and talk with them in person. And so. It's been difficult for them not to be in that situation. I can only imagine, but I think in these extraordinary times, we're going to require some extraordinary solutions. And I think having people move to some sort of online platform and being as innovative as they can, whether it's the small businesses doing that or the churches, has been the key to kind of continue that practice. And so, I think people like us in government need to be really upfront and forward and helpful as possible to the churches in our respective districts to let them know how we can be supportive in terms of, whatever the guidance is, whatever you need, so we can get those churches up and running as soon as possible in a healthy way. Absolutely.
That in a healthy way. Thank you, Rep. Santiago. For both of you as well, I'm curious. I've seen churches as well. We know the rule is hopefully that people adhere to no more than 10 people in a room. What about a church that decides to set up outside? Is it easy? Is it more likely that I won't catch corona if I'm outdoors where the fresh air is? The chairs are 6 feet apart. I'm wearing my mask. Is that but there's 30 or 40 people, 50 people, 100 people. Does it make a difference being outside? Is in regards to social distancing? Are the numbers a problem? What do you think?
Well, certainly being outside and again practicing all of those different measures that's good. I could imagine that. Again, the challenge will be in making sure that people abide by that safe distancing throughout the worship experiences. My experiences is the coming and the going is where people have a hard time. And it is so intuitive, especially church culture, to give a hug. You have to think twice about
absolutely
doing hugs and kisses like we typically do. So that gives us some special opportunities during the summer months, but still one needs to be vigilant about the exiting and entering. The other problem is bathrooms. Is how do we?
Yes.
If it's a short service, maybe you do all of that at home. You come to service and then you leave. But if it's a longer service, what do we think about how people do their understandable toileting?
That's right.
Between the offering and the benediction.
That's right. And some of us that are over 50, we end up in that bathroom a lot more than other folks do.
That's right.
You know, absolutely. What do you think, Representative?
No, I would agree with that. I mean, this is when theory and practice don't necessarily meet. In theory, yeah, if you're following all the rules and the health kind of guidance from the CDC, we're staying 6-7 feet away. We're washing hands. We got gloves. We got masks. We're doing everything.
But we're outside.
Well, I mean, if you're outside, it's better. I mean, you have more, currents, But it's, but logistically to do all that, it's very challenging, and people are so quick to just bounce back into their regular tradition. And so, better to be safe than sorry, and just, until we get a better handle on this virus, until cases go down, until we have better treatments, and hopefully until we have a vaccine, this is going to be the new normal for quite a while.
Yes, it will be. I just want to remind our folks that may have just tuned in that Gloria White Hammond, co-pastor Bethel AME Church, she's also a retired pediatrician, and State Representative John Santiago, who's a medical doctor as well, are on this call with us talking about COVID-19. One of the, I don't know, I'm a writer as well. I write scripts. I haven't sold anything, but I'm a writer. I'd like to call myself, but I don't know whether I watch and watch too much TV and movies because I write, but two things in my life have changed. I look at what I see, and it makes me start to wonder, is this because I'm reading the Bible more, because I live by faith, or is it too many movies and television? But is this a message from God that he's unhappy with us for something that's going on? You start to hear about, I know that when folks started hearing about, I think it was the state of Washington, they had the murder bees. And you think about back in the Bible when they talked about the locusts in Egypt. Matter of fact, Reverend Wall is going to read scripture that reinforces that.
Well, we're looking at Exodus chapter 10. We'll read 2 verses. Now the Lord said to Moses, "Go in to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and his hearts of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine before him." In verse number 2. And the Lord, and that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son the mighty things I have done in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord.
There you go. Is God angry at us? Is he angry about what's going on? And should we take this message seriously from a spiritual, religious perspective?
Certainly there are, what I'd say is here we are. And how do we, in the context of this tremendous, devastating pandemic, how do we, even with all of this that's going on, redeem this? What I mean by that, I think about, I draw us to another text that's familiar in the book of Jeremiah. One of our favorite texts, I'd say many people often quote is, "I know the plans that he has for me, to prosper me, not to harm me, to give me hope and future." And the context for that is, and first of all, that we often appropriate that as an individual, but it is actually a promise for a community, that we collectively have this promise. But those words were written by Jeremiah when the people have just they've disobeyed God. They're in captivity, and there are some people who assume that we're going to be able to get through this in a hurry. But what the prophet says is that God is saying, no, actually, we're going to need to be here for a while. In fact, 70 years. Mm-hmm. And then he encourages the people. He says, look, you're here. You're going to be here. Not everybody's coming out of this alive. Absolutely. And while you're here, plant your gardens and pray for this nation. Have children, raise your children to live good lives. And essentially, it's like, wow, this is the way that you redeem this season of captivity.
Sure.
But we're here. So how do we redeem it in terms of me as an individual, us as a community, really us as a broader country in the world? So I'm looking for the opportunity to hear God speaking in terms of how to make the most in the midst of this moment.
You know, and Reverend Hammond, you're absolutely right. You initially said the individual. It's all what we do as individuals means so much in God's eyes, and as it relates to the community and as it relates to society. Rep. Santiago, how would you like to address that?
Yeah. Thank you, Reverend Doctor, for those beautiful words. I think, when I look at my own faith, and I'm Puerto Rican. We grew up in a Catholic household, and somehow I kind of abandoned my family. And I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church in front of me, and to me, I think I don't pretend to speak for God, but I think we're in a very challenging and trying time right now, and I think about the reason why I ultimately decided for Korean service, and it's definitely traced back to my relationship with Christ, and the fact that his example of really giving the cloth off his back to anyone who needed, right? And that's what I think about when I go to the hospital or when I try to serve the community, and using his example is that. And I think this is a time where if there was ever an opportunity to be more Christ-like, we're living in one right now.
You're absolutely right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but I wanted to say too. This is an opportunity, as Reverend Hammond said, for the individual to get into your prayer right about now. I pray every day, thanking God for getting me through this healthy on a daily basis. And I have friends and family say, "Oh man, I'm so lucky. People around me have had the virus, and I didn't get it." No such thing as a God of good luck, folks. God is out there. God is trying to make sure He protects you. So make sure you pray and worship where you need to. Did you want to say something, Cheryl?
Yeah, I have a person who wrote in, monitoring some write-ins, and the question for Dr. Santiago is, what is the average number of days a person is on a ventilator, and are there any long-term damage that they suffer?
That's a great question. So let me just give you some background on what a ventilator. A ventilator is pretty much a breathing machine that they attach to a breathing tube that's down pretty much your airway. We use these words around all over the media and in the news, but this is a very serious thing to do. This is like when the person will die if they don't get this machine. And even the act of putting someone on a ventilator, of putting that breathing tube in their trachea or their airway, is a very dangerous, tricky, and risky procedure, right? So you're risking their life when you do it, and when you put them on the ventilator, the longer they're on the ventilator, they're potentially exposed to all kinds of pneumonias and things that could get them really sick, really bad, and can cause death. So this is not a good thing, but it's a necessary thing when you're at that point. What we've seen, the data coming out of China and Europe and even here, that people, in order to kick this virus, they're on a ventilator for a couple of weeks. And if you look at the data, there was as high as 70% of people would not make it off the ventilator.
Wow.
And now the numbers are better here in America, what we're starting to see, particularly some of the studies coming out of Harvard. But make no mistake, when you get on a ventilator, it's not a good thing, and you're probably going to get sick. You're probably going to be on there for a while, and weaning you off the ventilator is a challenging thing. And so, I think, people have been saying, they've seen people stay on for about 2 weeks. But it's a good point to make, because initially when we started to see this COVID-19 in the emergency room, so I'm in the ER, right? I get first shot at you when I see you. Like, how you doing? How you looking? Is this person in the ventilator right now? And initially it was thought, it was believed that we should put people on ventilators earlier to really, help their lungs out. So over the course of the past 2 months, we've seen people, you can't get these people off ventilators, and so we've changed our practice to really keep them off ventilators as long as we can by doing other things. Like, one thing that we started to do is we started to prone people. We literally put people on their bellies in the ER and it helps with their oxygen.
Wow.
And that's something that we used to do in the ICU only in very rare circumstances. Now we're doing that in the emergency room, and it's actually working.
Wow.
We keep people off ventilators.
I hate to cut you off. We have a limited amount of time left, and I want to ask one more question and give the two of you an opportunity to close. As I mentioned last week when I was speaking to the mayor, I am so tired of eating fried chicken all the time. That is my signature dish while we're locked in. I cannot fry any more chicken. Reverend Dr. Hammond, what is your signature dish that your family cannot live without that you cook?
We love steel cut oats, and so that's how we start our day out. It's just me and my husband now, and a good bowl of steel cut oats with some bananas, strawberries, blueberries is definitely our go-to comfort.
Sounds very healthy to me. Nothing like fried. Can you fry that? Does that come in fried as well, or no? Just no. Rep Santiago, how about yourself?
I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive that I married this wonderful woman who has to be who is from France, and so she cooks it up like you would not believe.
Wow.
She makes these like homemade brioche bread almost daily, and she is the queen of quarantine, and she's been taking good care of the family here. And so if it wasn't for her, I don't even know what I would do. But watching her cook and feed us and take care of us, I mean. It's just been a blessing. Oh,
goodness. I have a queen of quarantine, too. I can't do anything. You got to take everything off when you step in the house. My wash from head to toe. I haven't even left the house yet. But we have a message that the three of us would like to send to the two of you and to all the healthcare providers and the frontline providers from around the world that are out there. And, folks, please, when you see these people walking, you know them with the uniform, you know who our nurses and doctors are, firemen, police officers, EMTs, please tell them how much we appreciate them. So I want to lead this off by saying to you guys, we appreciate you.
We stand by you.
We honor you.
We praise you.
We respect your sacrifices.
We love you.
We will continue to pray for you.
We thank you.
And God bless you.
That's for all of you. We love you. Thank you very much for being on the air, Reverend Hammond, State Representative, and Dr. John Santiago. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
all right,
you.
Take care. So what do you think, Cheryl? You heard from the experts today. I think you got a minute, maybe, Reverend Hammond? What do you think about the discussion?
I thought it was a great discussion. I think that we had that it really clarified some stuff for me on the medical front. I would like to mention that I just saw an article in the New York Post that said cannabis is almost proven to inhibit the pathway of the virus. They're thinking of making some mouthwashes and lozenges with THC in them.
According to the cannabis community, everything works with cannabis. It goes with everything. It doesn't matter what it is, but
it's a cure-all.
It's a cure-all. Cheryl, but talk to us. Do you feel that government should be telling us?
I'm done with the government intervention at this point, Trey. I have to say that I'm finished with it. I feel like sometimes I'm just the news, watching it repeatedly. I just feel like I'm being babysat, and I understand they're trying to be helpful, but there's a point where, you can't hide from the virus. You have to get outside. We have to be exposed to the microbiomes of other humans. So hiding inside, of course, you're going to see a surge when everybody comes out, and that's going to be the next rhetoric. Oh, we got this big surge, and who is at fault for it? If you hide inside, if everybody hides inside and then comes out, of course you're going to get a surge. And I'm not into the blame game of why it's happening.
Well, one thing that I want to say, having a mother that's 79 years old, getting ready to go on 80, I really worry about them, and I want to say to my mother, if she's listening, please stay inside. I will shop for you. I will do it. So I really worry about my mother, about my brother, and about other people. I must say that I really appreciate the fact that the mayor has kept us the way he has. I think some good decisions have been made. I think that he's more concerned with life, health and life more than anything. And I know for myself, trying to eat properly, trying to exercise. What's most important for me at the age of 58 is prolonging life. I want to be around for another 30 or 40. So I'm going to try to do everything that folks advise me to do. and try to stay on the right track. Reverend Wall, how do you
I
feel?
just want to say I'm not promoting irresponsibility, but
Not at all. I know
I
that.
feel that, we have to start to get back to some sense of normality.
And you know what, too, folks? We need some folks to come out with some creative ideas for this summer and how we deal with issues in our community around COVID. We've got to support our neighbors. We have to support our friends. But we have to figure out ways to be creative in this instance, especially we have summer jobs coming up. What are we going to do with all the young people? Government cannot do it all by themselves. We need folks to come in and to support, to give ideas, and to figure this out together so we can move forward in a safe manner. Would you agree with that, Reverend Wall?
I agree. And again, the quality of the program with the information that came into our station and people were listening. One person, I wanted them to call in. They said, plenty to listen to rather than just calling in.
Sure.
So people just wanted to hear the information.
I'm glad you did. Just to let you know, we'll be here next Friday at 11 o'clock. The show will be on business, black small business in Boston. And we will have Cheryl Strada from Soleo and my man, 20 grand, Frank Poindexter from Wally's Bar and Cafe. Hope to have you here next Friday. Cheryl, it was a pleasure seeing you finally. You've been on lockdown for so long. I forgot what you look like. I really don't recognize you with all that hair, really. You see,
I know, my hair's so long.
You see, I got an afro, too, It's something different, boy.
Jerry, I need you.
Yes, please, open the barbershops quickly. Thank you very much, and we will definitely see you next week. God bless. Love you.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good.
Glory.